Hello everyone, good day. Welcome to the subject. I am Ricky May Trajano Pigaro. Today, we are going to tackle another topic in this contemporary world journey. So let's begin introducing Module 3 entitled A World of Ideas. Ideas are responsible for the progression and prosperity of humans. Without them, we would still be living in unknown. The contemporary world is a complex state characterized by rapid scientific and technological advancements, colorful transfer of culture, and thriving economies. It is, therefore, a challenging feat to capture the nuances of the various issues, dimensions, and manifestations of globalization into an instructional material. Here are the specific learning outcomes that we're going to meet as our lecture progresses. You should be able to analyze how various media drive various forms of global integration. Second, explain dynamics between local and global cultural production. Next, live up with culture of cooperation. And lastly, demonstrate the effects of globalization to religion. Okay, take a look at this lesson map. So, in line with the topic, A World of Ideas, is the global media cultures were composed of the following functions. Number 1 has 5 periods to study globalization and media. Second, cultural exchange. Third, support the creation of new communities. Fourth, channel of communication. Lastly, restructuring of cultural land social communities. Basically, the map shows that while globalization has been rapid in contemporary times, the innate desire to expand one's horizon by wandering and exploring different spaces is ingrained in humanity since its beginning. Globalization also entails the spread of various cultures. For example, when a film is made in Hollywood, it is not only shown in the United States, but also in other cities across the globe. However, globalization plays its role in the spread of ideas. For instance, the notion of the rights of LGBT community is spreading across the world and become more widely accepted. Culture and idea are both the lifeblood in the ever-changing world. Let's now proceed, elucidating the global media cultures. According to Jacques Ellul, in his article Globalization and Media, Creating the Global Village, he states that could global trade have evolved without a flow of information on markets, prices, commodities, and more? Could empires have stretched across the world without communication throughout their borders? Could religion, music, poetry, film, fiction, cuisine, and fashion develop as they have without the intermingling of media and cultures? This quotation made in questions will be given attention as our lecture begin and continue. So, let's find it out. One of the fuels, consequences, and manifestations of globalization is the flow of culture from one geographical area to another. Culture, in simpler terms, refers to humans' way of life, how we present ourselves, What are the choices we make and how we relate with one another, how we pursue our aspirations. In short, it has been the way of life for an entire society. Yet, this way of life manifests in tangible objects. Example, the clothes we use, the infrastructures we build, the things we create, collectively referred to as material culture, or let us say, concrete in our daily life. On the other hand, this also shows in intangible ideas that we hold dear. Example, our beliefs, our traditions, our practices, collectively referred to as non-material culture. Otherwise, those abstract to everyone. So, with the preceding explanations, we can infer that culture is divided into two: material culture and the non-material culture. Cultures is articulated in symbols or illustrations that convey meanings. It is also manifested in language or a system of symbols that enable members of a society to communicate with one another. It is observed in our values, what we deem good, desirable, and important, the beliefs, what we deem true, and practices, how we do things. Most importantly, it is enshrined in our norms. Our rules, and expectations that we have and others have relative to our membership in a society. So, that was just an introduction of our topic for today, which is all about world of ideas. In line with it is the global media cultures. Thank you!
Good afternoon to you guys. So before we proceed to our main topic, let me introduce myself. I'm Nalmar Gesta. So for today's topic, we'll tackle about the global media cultures. So before we proceed to our main topic, let us talk about what is global media. So global media refers to the forms of mass communication that reach across the world. So that is the meaning of global media. But first, there are two essential impact on cultural globalization. Let us talk about the two essential impact on cultural globalization before we proceed to the what is global media culture. So first is that the media provide an extensive transitional transmission of cultural product, and they contribute to the formation of communicative networks and social structures. For short, it means that media is such a useful thing that comes in our life, since it helps us transmit or transport our cultural products, and also they contribute formation to communicative networks, like talking to your parents. Even you're away in your home, you can communicate with them. We are already here in what is global media culture. So first, global media promote restructuring of cultural land and social communities. Second, global media support the creation of new communities. Third, global media like satellite, TV, and radio allows immigrants to be in close contact with their homelands, language, and culture, or known as a channel of communication. Number one means that global media cultures create a continuous cultural exchange in which crucial aspects such as identity, nationality, religion, behavioral norms, and way of life are continuously questioned and challenged. So number two means that global media support the creation of new communities. So why global media can create new communities? First, because media provide an extensive transitional transmission of cultural products, and that's why it can make some new communities, and secondly, they contribute to the formation of communicative networks and social structures. And lastly, it's easy to understand demand since our technology today is more high tech. We can communicate to our loved ones or to our parents or friends even though we are far from with them using the channel of communication. We can use Facebook Messenger to contact with our parents. So I will read the summary of global media culture so that you will easily understand what it means. So global media culture explores the relationship between the media culture and globalization. The course approaches past and current challenges concerning international communication and explore the problematize the power of media presentation. Media culture takes part in the process of globalization, including how it challenges existing cultures and create new alternative symbolic and cultural communities. So why is it important? Why is it global media culture is important? Like I said already, firstly, the media provide an extensive transitional transmission of cultural products. And secondly, they contribute to the formation of communicative network and social structures. So I have a picture that indicate what is media and globalization. So first, watch the picture. Okay, thank you. So let's proceed. So what are the relationship between globalization and media? So the mass media today are seen as playing key role in enhancing globalization and facilitating cultural exchange and multiple flows of information and images between countries through international new broadcast, television, programming, new technologies, film, and music. So the main relationship between globalization and media, it is the key role a key role in enhancing globalization and also cultural exchange, and also it media can also help us communicate to our loved ones to know their status situation, and also it it also have international new broadcasts like television programming, new technologies, film, and music. So media is such a useful thing to us of of improving our country like that.
Hi, have you ever wondered how we came up with this, 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 and so many more? So, hi, any ideas what our topic for today would be? As you can see, the world today has already its transition from traditional to digital when talking about media. I would assume that you guys already know what media is. You know it, right? Media that involves communication channels through which news, entertainment, education, data, or promotion are disseminated. I am here to talk about these things with you today. Our topic would be the evolution of media and globalization. Scholars like Harold Ennis, James Lull, Terry Rantin have found it logical to organize the historical study of media by time period, since each stage is characterized by a dominant medium. These are the time periods that scholars organize. We have the oral communication, script, the printing press, electronic media, and lastly, digital media. In 1950, Harold Ennis divided media into three periods, namely oral, print, and electronic. Later then followed by James Lowell at the close of 20th century, adding digital. And lastly, in 2005, Terry Rantin added script before the printing press. Oral communication is known to be the oldest and enduring of all media. Despite numerous changes, the first and lastly thing that humans could share is the ability to speak. Speech has been with us for at least 200,000 years. When speech developed into language, it has become a medium that and globalization. But how? Language helps humans to move and allow them to cooperate, such as sharing information that would help the human's ability to travel and adapt various environments like land, water, and climate. Also sharing information about tools and weapons that lead to the spread of technology. Language helps humans to settle down. It has transmitted information across generations, leading into the creation of villages and towns. It also led to markets, trades, and giving rise to cities. According to Osler, language was their most important tool. Script, the very first writing, allowed humans to communicate and share knowledge or ideas over much larger spaces and across longer times. Printing press. It is said that it transformed markets, businesses, nations, schools, churches, governments, and many more. It is also started the information revolution. Before it emerged, the production of written documents was slow and expensive. Electronic media, a house of new media, is a pricing system of globalization in the beginning of 19th century. These are the telegraph, telephone, radio, and television. All mentioned were the media or electronic media. From the word itself, it requires electricity. The telegraph became the global medium of eventually send coded messages. Telephone, with its ability to transmit speed over distance, became the next communication breakthrough. Radio, the wireless telegraph that transmitted music and news, reaching regions without the constructions of wires and roads. Television is considered the most powerful, brought together with the visual and the power of film with radio. Largely because of television, the world became the global village. Digital media, it has taken over of our lives. The computer is the common representation of digital media. Anyone with computer has to access economic information. It is also allows industries to access to a global marketplace. The social media allows citizens to communicate among themselves and adapt new practices and cultures such as music, education, fashion, arts, and many more. As you can see, media made globalization possible. With the periods of media and globalization, we saw marked influence on media and globalization. It is beyond impossible to think that globalization is emerging without the influence of media.
Good day to everyone. The topic that we will gonna be discussing today is all about the functions of media and how it affects the society. We all know how vital is media in our life nowadays. So let's proceed to the topic and let's know what are the functions of media. Information. Sending and sharing information are the major function of media. Offer authentic, timely facts and opinions over certain events and situations. Information mostly through news, radio, TV, or even newspapers and magazines. Education provides education and information, gives education in different subjects to people of in all levels, also to educate people through forms of content. It can be either indirect or indirect approach, just like documents, interviews that would help student in learning and for better experience. Entertainment, view as the most obvious and often used function of media for any kind of performance that provides pleasure to people. Example of those are films, comics, sports, televisions, and etc. Persuasion. Persuasion involves making influence on others' mind, build opinions, and set agendas in the public mind. Influence votes, change attitude, and moderates behavior. Example that best to fit in is advertisement. Surveillance. Observe the society closely and continuously and warn about threatening actions. usually occurs when there is threats. Some of those are about economic conditions, increasing inflation, military attack, and many more. Interpretation supply explanations and interpretation of events and situations, correlating and interpreting information to make the reality clear, like news analysis, commentaries, editorials, and columns. Linkage join together different elements of society that are not directly connected. Media become bridge between different groups who may or not have direct connection. Socialization, transmission of culture, reflectors of society, socialize people, especially children and newcomers. Socialization media helps to share our behaviors, conducts, attitudes, and beliefs. And now let's know how media affects the society. The media influence so man's behavior nowadays, information can be spread after a few clicks of a button, whether it is true or false, affects relation in various ways between high standard people and ordinary people. Media can manipulate, persuade, and pressure society in both positive and negative ways.
Today, we will be having a discussion about the issues of media culture. So let's have first talk about what media culture literally mean. So media culture is a society or a culture that has been heavily influenced by mass media, whereby communication occurs instantly across massive populations. This is actually represents a dramatic and relatively recent shifts from traditional cultures that were formed with the process of person-to-person communication. Share experience, broadcast media, internet media, culture log, propaganda, advertising, consumer culture, creative and gaming culture are some of the examples that we can observe. Our theoretical and practical explorations in different issues, social, political, and cultural change, including digital citizenship, smart cities, ethics, and health and well-being. Changes in the acts and creative practice and content, including serious gaming and interaction, as well as audience engagement. In the age of globalization, there are another also few issues to address like access, production and consumption, inclusion and participation, and cultural integrity. In the aspect of access, we may ask who has access to media. Is it something that everyone who needs it can get hold of? Or are there only a few of groups of people who has access to it because of certain socioeconomic advantage? Well, there are 4.65 billion social media access in the world today, which equivalent to 58.7% of the world's total of populations. In the aspect of production and consumption, we may ask what media contents are made available for consumption, who decides what to produce and not to produce, and what are the intentions for producing such contents. Well, content production is when a person or an organization produces or creates any type of content. This is may or may not available for others to consume. For most on the most creators produce content for consumptions. They make it for a media platform so that is it may be grasped and understood by an audience. Sometimes content is produced but not consumed, but all content that is consumed is always produced. In the aspect of inclusion and participation, we may also ask how are people represented in media and how does media culture put forward equity and human rights. It is an assembly of people with a common interest where they become the means of mass communication. In other words, people are media themselves since they have the ability for mass communication. Media can also give publicity to the individual and organizations which are engaged in securing human rights. In the aspect of cultural integrity, we may ask, how does media culture shape the inherent culture in the local sphere? How is it culture framed in media? Mass media are seen today as playing a key role in enhancing globalization and facilitating cultural exchange and multiple flows of information and image between countries through international news broadcast, television, programming, news, or technologies, film, and music. And media really influences culture by allowing us for a very rapid exchange of ideas which culture share any concepts with one and another.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nefertari Eroles Rubantes, and I will discuss globalization and cultural imperialism. Globalization is the process of interaction among people, companies, and government worldwide. Cultural imperialism comprises the cultural aspect of imperialism. Imperialism here refers to the creation and maintenance of unequal relationships between civilizations favoring a more powerful civilization. As technology develops, technology made it possible to make a worldwide movement toward economic, financial trade, and communication integration, which is called globalization. The globalization paradigm started with a good purpose. It was to unify the world and to share and understand each other's culture. However, it turns out globalization paradigm had its flaws, and these flaws are described as cultural imperialism. Because of the American monopoly in communication research since the Second World War, some people viewed mass media as a channel of westernization. The flow of media from the West to less developed countries was regarded by the developed West as good not only for the recipients but also for the senders who saw it as an integral part of their fight against socialism and totalitarianism. But this ethnocentric view of global communications has drawn a critical response from international scholars and receiving countries. During the Cold War and the numerous resistance movements within many semi-colonial areas, the issue became an inevitable argument. New media imperialism seemed to succeed more easily than the previous international propaganda because of its form of ordinary entertainment and the willingness of mass audiences to enjoy popular culture. According to detractors of globalization, Macwell, global communications are mostly connected with notions such as cultural imperialism and media imperialism. They see global communications as a vehicle which aims at controlling, invading, or undermining other cultures. The transmitted cultural or ideological pattern has often been seen as an invasion of Western values, particularly those of America. Karen Cross further claims, in countries other than the United States, people fear a future in which everybody speaks English and thinks like an American, with cultural diversity engulfed in a tidal wave of cross Hollywood values. While some people criticize Western media exports as predatory, others support it as an expression of the free market and regard the imbalance of law as a characteristic of the wider media market, which has benefit for all. Free flow theorists tend to assume that global media has little predatory effect because the audience is voluntary, claiming that global media content is culturally neutral and ideologically innocent, according to Beltriest 1995. However, receiving countries have often complained of media imperialism, arguing that global mass media is having negative effects on the culture and traditional values of their citizens. The idea is that cultural autonomy is undermined by imbalance in the flow of mass media content, and therefore its national identity in an age of globalism is in danger of being subverted. Maxwell points out, the unequal relationship in the flow of news increases the relative global power of large and wealthy news producing countries and hinders the growth of an appropriate national identity and self-image. Such views have even been supported by other leaders of Western countries. Jacques Chirac has frequently spoken in developing countries about the negative effects of American culture as transmitted through its mass communications machinery. Supporters of the idea that globalized media is cultural imperialism also view global mass media as a process of cause and effect, pointing out that the media conveys opinions and ideas from one place to another, from senders to receivers. But media does not work so simply, except in certain cases of planned communication. We have considered the active participation of the receiving end, the audience that shapes the media content. The audience has as much power to shape media content through assigning meaning to it as media producers do through creating it. The aims of media suppliers are also no longer the only element that can determine the characteristic of the information flow within the media. The media must also respond to the wants and needs of the receivers. However, recently, the new voices have supported media globalization, wherein a few countries previously dominated global media channels. Now, other countries and cultures are able to take advantage of them as well. According to Mahamadi, cultural imperialism was based on a situation of comparative global media scarcity, limited global media players, and embryonic media systems in much of the Third World. This is true because our situation right now has changed substantially in recent years, and the mix of players has become ever more complex.
The global capitalism approaches. So here we go to discuss what is global capitalism approaches. So the global capitalism approach argues that the globalization of the capitalism is the heart of globalization process. Global capitalism transcends the national borders. It is known as the fourth epoch of capitalism in recognition of the three periods of epochs that came before it. Its key actors are transnational corporations, which in many instances are more powerful in economic and political terms than many of the countries they exploit in terms of labor, raw materials, or market. So, in global capitalism's perspective of viewpoints that the globalization of these kinds depend upon the promotion of ideology of consumerism. The media industry relentlessly promote consumerism by emphasizing what is considered to be a desirable lifestyle. So, this is not only about in form of advertising, sponsorship, and product endorsement, but also in the promotion of certain lifestyle as being more desirable than others within a wide range of media setting. So, in advertising, where we can see a specific kinds of body image for men and women, I relentlessly promoted the implicit mission that if you buy this product, a car, beauty product, clothes, or etc., you will somehow be transformed and become more desirable. So we have here an example of embodied of desirable lifestyle. So we have here two pictures. We go first in a tidy house truck where we can found similarities in the real house. And the other side is a beauty product where it's tell that if you use this product, your face more brighter and you may look younger. So, when did the global capitalism start? The global capitalism start in modern capitalism emerged in early 19th century in Western Europe and the European offshoot of the American and Oceania. Recognizing the unparalleled dynamism of the new socio-economic system, Mark and Engels predicted in 1848 that capitalism would spread to the entire world.
The local and global. Global culture tends to move easily around the globe, even before through non-material digital forms. Why? Because we all know that there is now an immense range of new technologies, gadgets, cell phones, and even internet that can make us able to be more exposed, and we can easily learn from this new culture. Globalization implies increased integration of the world markets for goods, services, and assets, which is increasingly permeability of national borders to the flows of technology trade, capital data, and ideas as the world becomes a global village. Mass media, the main means of mass communication regarded collectivity, broadcasting, publishing, advertising, cinema, and internet. Our example of mass media, it is the communication outlets or tools used to store and deliver information or data. Technology has the relationship with media as it is complements and bring media forward, and as technology enables rapid communication, quick and coordinated transportation, and efficient mass marketing after knowing the touchstone of media and technology. Global communities are made up of people from different countries with a goal to connect globally. Communities are made up of people who lived in the same country and have the common interest of fashion. The difference between global and local communities is that one focuses on connecting globally while the other has a focuses on connecting locally. Community is an important aspect of life. For many people, one way people define their community is by where they lived or work. These communities are often referred to as local communities. Unlike local communities, global communities don't have a geographic location where they met. Today, the term global community often refers to a network of people that spans the globe and shares similar beliefs, issues, and interests. The global community compasses the way people around the world interact with each other through the commerce, information sharing, and online communities. Global communities are usually found on social networks such as Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter. They allow users to interact with each other from different countries and backgrounds. This has the advantage of giving people access to information from different regions of the world. Global communities help people learn about other cultures and become more tolerant and open to other people and ideas. A local community exists in same neighborhood, city, or town. It made up of people who have something in common, such as going to same church, living in same neighborhood, working for same company, going to school together, or having different social experiences. When you live in a local community, you can easily identify and build relationship with other people. This relationship depends on physical presence of both parties. Local communities are important to people because of limited mobility in some social societies. They variable link between people who might otherwise never interact. Global community can gather at any time, anywhere in the world via Skype or Google Hangouts, while physical meetings required very costly and long travel. Today, however, most communities, global and local, use social media.
A good day to everyone. The topic that we will going to discuss is all about the rules to the growth of a country. The first rules to the growth of a country is provides educational opportunities, issues of literacy are addressed, especially media literacy, derives the essential benefits for education, and through media literacy, we may able to understand media messages also for us to become more discerning members of society. The next rule is the economic role of global media is reflected in its dominant orientation to profit, to consider to be the largest industries in the world. A huge part of the growth is when global media pertain to continue and develop multiple flows of information between countries could surely be so helpful. The last rule is the political role of media. Among other things, consists of interpreting the communicational linking of social subsystem of authorities, politicians, and citizens, representing interests and statuses of social groups, initiating and conducting the public hearing, influencing public opinion. A role that seek for an important connection within social groups for making better decisions, as what it trying to pertain.
Okay, to sum up, in this lesson, you have learned that culture refers to humans' way of life, how we present ourselves, what are the choices we make and how we relate with one another, how we pursue our dreams or aspirations. Second, material culture is the way of life manifest in tangible objects. Example, the clothes we use, the infrastructures we build, and the things we created. Third one, the non-material culture, which shows in intangible ideas that we hold dear. Example, our beliefs, our traditions, our practices. Another, technological determinism means technology shapes society. Social determinism in which society shapes technology. So, on the other hand, in the age of globalization, there are a few issues to address, such as access, production and consumptions, inclusion and participation, and cultural integrity. Global capitalism also is the approach argues that the globalization of capitalism is at the heart of the globalization process. Its key actors are transnational corporations, which in many instances are more powerful in economic and political terms than many of the countries they exploit, in terms of labor, raw materials, or market. To formally end this lecture, thank you so much for listening, everyone. If you have questions, kindly address it in our group. Keep safe. God bless everyone.